Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 1ND podcast. I'm your host, Vikash, joined by my co-host, Sagar. And today, we're just going to be talking about the NFL, its impending return, some of the trades and transactions that have gone on in the offseason, fantasy football, this, that, and the other. I'm excited, dude.
Oh, no, I'm excited for sure. I think, especially with the old Rona around, everyone's really looking for some sports or the other to start back up. I know, the NBA should be coming back soon, end of July, I believe, as well as, the NFL seemingly being on track to start despite all the concerns that medical experts are saying. It's great to have it back as a fan, right? That's one more source of entertainment for us during this time. And we're we're super hyped because I'd say NFL is probably, if not our favorite, one of our favorite sports to watch. And we love all aspects of it. We love the trade rumors. We love fantasy football, which again I think is going to be fun this year. I got kind of creamed last year, so hopefully this year I can pick it back up.
You get creamed any year if you're in my league.
False.
What? Oh, really? Name one time.
Dude, I was so unlucky last year. I got the most points scored against me, and the weeks I would score 150 points, my opponent would just have to score 151 or it was so annoying.
When you win the playoffs again,
it was so annoying. Yeah,
talk to me when you.
This year's gonna be the year.
Hopefully this year. I like when you're in the playoffs. It's more fun because it's a little bit of a challenge. I know that I'm facing someone that knows what they're doing versus someone that lucked their way in and didn't auto draft their team to success or something. But,
it's gonna be fun.
Fantasy football should be fun, and there's an extra layer of complexity, right? Because then, there are all these players that are getting COVID, and will they have to sit out 14 days if they're test positive during the season? Will they have to? Let's say a player doesn't want to play anymore. They just came up with, hey, I don't want to play. I don't want to risk my family or my future, by getting COVID. All these players are getting it. This, that, and the other. Will they just start sitting out? There's an extra layer of complexity on a fantasy football, but also it's a fair point to them in that they should have that choice to sit out if they would want to for the safety of their family
and that's definitely a great point. Just because injuries are always a major player, especially late in the season. So with how infectious coronavirus is, that's going to be pretty much a luck thing, right? Because it's inevitable that players are going to get it. You just have to. There's no way to even predict that, right? For example, you could be looking at some players and you can look at their injury history. For example, I think Brandon Cooks is a great example. Before you draft him, you need to be wary of the fact that he's had concussion issues and injury issues. So that kind of devalues him a little bit in the draft, when you're picking players. Whereas with Corona, that's just a wild fact, a wild card. So I think the way you could probably do it is look at the states they play in. But even then, with all the traveling that they do, that wouldn't make any sense. It'll be interesting to see if there's any expert analyst out there, quotation marks around expert, that can suggest which players to take based on the risk for COVID they have. That'd be an interesting thing.
I never listen to the analysts. I just look at the numbers, man. The analysts don't know much of what they're talking about. They're oh, this guy's gonna break out this season, draft him in round 2. Goes in round 2, doesn't do anything the entire season. It's dude, just go off the numbers, go off the team that they're on, and go off your own predictions. I feel it's the best way to play the game, But also, do you think the way NFL are handling it, they seem pretty lax on the whole COVID issue? And do you think that if a player, let's say they don't test positive week 3, but they test them every week and they test positive during week 4, do they have to sit out 2 weeks now?
I mean, I would say, yeah, you definitely need to. I mean, that just, at that point, if you don't, that's going against all common logic, at that point, they need to make it mandatory. The government may need to step in if the teams are refusing to do so, because that's definitely an act where they could be held to a bunch of legal liabilities given other players in the workplace if they're willingly letting people who test positive continue to play. So as soon as someone even gets a false positive, you got to set them out for the 2 weeks, because that's the reality we're in right now.
I mean, very true, but at the same time, do you see the country? Do you see how everyone's reacting to the coronavirus? How like a lot of people just don't want to wear masks.
Yeah, and it's a shame that it's become a political thing too.
Yeah,
And
why is it a bipartisan issue to wear masks?
dude,
Yeah,
it's
whatever.
it's
No,
just
let's
so
not get
stupid.
into politics. Uh, but this season should be a good one. We're Tampa Bay Bucks fans, so Tom Brady coming on over here should be a fun one, right?
Oh
I'm
no, for
excited.
sure. I'm so hyped for that. And I think that kind of leads us into one of the main like new topics this week that happened, which was Cam Newton signing with the Patriots, and like how this whole thing is gonna go down now since Brady is in Tampa.
Yeah, that
And
little quarterback carousel is pretty fun. Brady went down to the Bucks. Jameis went over to the Saints. Well, okay, Brady went from the Pats to the Bucks. Jameis went from the Bucks to the Saints. Teddy Bridgewater went from the Saints to the Panthers, and then Cam Newton finished the carousel by going from the Panthers over to the New England Patriots.
yeah, that's crazy. So basically, there was like I was saying yesterday too. It's like a zero sum game. They basically all just traded assets, and there was no new quarterback in the loop. And like, let's see how it goes, right?
Did you know that the New England Patriots are the first team ever to have an offseason where they got rid of an NFL MVP and they got back an NFL MVP in the same offseason?
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
that's
kind of
interesting.
interesting.
Okay, I never thought of that. You'd think, yeah, I mean, there's no real team who would have the luxury to do that kind of thing other than, I would say maybe the Colts made, like, the Colts were lucky to go from Manning to Luck, but Luck was a rookie when they took him, so that no way he could be MVP. And I don't really see another MVP going to another team. That'd be kind of crazy. So yeah, that's an interesting tidbit. I will say that I think me and you disagree with Cam Newton and the situation in New England. You're a little more optimistic than I am. I just feel like watching the New England offense last year, I don't know how great he would do, and I feel like he may be a scapegoat.
Scapegoat for if they do poorly. Yeah, I mean, I could see your point. But the thing is, I think everyone should understand that the Patriots don't have anyone, right? And then number two, you're kind of underestimating big man Cam over there. I think he can do it. I mean, he's that dual threat quarterback. I mean, he's not been rushing as much recently, but he's still got legs, and he can throw a man open. And his completion percentage is not the greatest, but he can lead a team to victory, right? Like he won MVP. He went to the Super Bowl for a reason, and it's not like the Patriots are devoid of talent. They're not the most talentless team in the league. They might be, but offensively, defensively, they've got a great unit, and Bill Belichick always knows how to run his defense. But offensively, I'm sure Cam could pick up the pieces of what's over there. They've got like Julian Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, Marquise Lee. We just figured out that he was there. And then they've still got those great running backs with Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead, those types. So we'll see. We'll see if Cam is more willing to do those little dump off passes to James White, or if he's just gonna like force a ball to Julian Edelman if it's not there. And also, we just don't know if Cam will start early in the season. Maybe it'll take a little while for him to learn the playbook, and Jared Stidham will be the starter. And you never know, maybe Jared Stidham would surprise you.
No, for sure. You're making good points. I will say though that one thing that Cam has been lacking in his game relative to other quarterbacks, of course, is that whenever I watch him, he's like always he's like a playmaker, right? And that's what makes him great. He can extend plays, he can throw the deep ball, he can run open and get you the first down when you need. But it's kind of the antithesis of what the Patriots are known for doing on offense, where it's really meticulous, precision based, run the perfect routes, get the ball to the perfect position because you have the luxury in Brady. And switching over to Cam, who's been lacking in fundamentals, really, just from what other quarterbacks and ex-NFL players have been saying, his footwork could use some help. I wonder if going to the Patriots in that situation is something like similar to Jameis in New Orleans, where having that year under your belt in an established organization that knows how to win will just help them develop and improve their game. And, like you mentioned, just for example, Jameis is still really young and he's going to be entering his prime soon. Cam is in his prime, but he's also only 31. And if you compare that to Tom Brady, Brady's like 10 years older than him, 10 years plus older than him. So if they can work with Cam and develop him even more, which I think Cam has room to grow, believe it or not, they may be onto something for another decade, which is frustrating to say because, everyone hates Patriots fans. It's very, very well deserved. Shout out to Sauger for that. But yeah, I think that they're onto something if they can maybe help develop Cam and things that he's lacking. Revolving around.
You said Sauger as if everyone else knows who Sauger is. You just said your own name in the third person, essentially.
Yeah, well,
for what everyone knows.
I guess it's a good.
We have another friend.
We have a friend named Sauger, and we'll soon be getting him onto a podcast. He's a diehard Lil Wayne fan, so keep your
Lil Wayne aficionado.
Yeah, keep your ears open for that.
Man is gonna write a book on Lil Wayne eventually.
I'm sure he will. And
this man knows so much about.
He's
Lil Wayne.
Annoyingly notorious Patriots fan, and I don't know why he's a Patriots fan. He's been in Florida for like 20 plus years of his life. So yeah, we hate Patriots fans. That's like the little tidbit. We love Tom Brady now because he's on the Bucs, so he doesn't count.
Yeah, I don't know if people hate the Patriots as much now that Tom Brady's not on it. It's just like he was the face of the Patriots and now he's gone. So I don't know. Even if they have success in the near future, if it's with Cam or whatever, I don't know if they'll hate him as much.
I feel
Maybe
like
if it's still Belichick.
It's kind of weird. Like, so it's like a double. It's like a flip on two sides, right? So people may have hated Tom Brady more and now he's gone. At the same time, there's a lot of people who love Cam Newton. And so, like, you may hate the Patriots, but if you love Cam Newton, you may not want to hate them as much because you like Cam Newton, right?
But see, my thing is, I don't think anyone will hate the Patriots anymore. They're not the dynasty that they were because they don't have Tom Brady anymore. And the thing is, the entire offense was Tom Brady. Like, I don't think Josh McDaniels is a very good offensive coordinator. I think he was carried by Tom Brady, and you can see that when McDaniels went to Denver.
Yeah, he went to Denver, and it was not a very good stint.
It was not very good at all. And so you just see how much Brady may be carrying that offense. And, Belichick also helps on the defensive side to make Josh McDaniels look good. I think the Colts lucked out by not getting Josh McDaniels and getting what's his name?
Who are you talking about?
The Colts head coach.
Frank Reich.
Frank Reich. I think they lucked out totally by Josh McDaniels being like, no, I'm not signing with you guys anymore. I'm going back to the Patriots, because Frank Reich is probably 10 times the offensive guru that Josh McDaniels is. And that's why I think the situation is different between Cam and Jameis, because Cam is not going to this offensive genius. He's not playing behind the greatest offensive quarterback of all time in Drew Brees, and behind essentially one of the greatest offensive minds in football in Sean Payton. He's going to the Patriots, who, let's say, the last 2 years weren't the greatest offensively. They don't have tools on the offense, like you were saying earlier. I mean, they don't have scrubs, but they don't have anyone that's really gonna stand out and like compete with. Like, I'd say the Dolphins and the Bills and maybe the Jets have better offensive tools. Well, yeah, definitely they have Le'Veon Bell. And so their situations are different. It'll be, I think Jameis knows he's there to learn. He's there to try and revitalize his career, even though he should be a starter somewhere. That man is really good at football. And then you've got Cam, who might be going there to start, might be going to sit behind Jared Stidham for a year. Who knows? All I know is the fact that Chad Henne is making more money let's not even think about the fact that he got a 3-year contract to be a clipboard warrior with his 7 and 5 touchdown to interception ratio in his career, with his 2 to 3 wins to loss ratio. He's getting paid like $5 million this year, and Cam's base contract, I believe, is a little under $1 million, and the same with Jameis. And Cam's contract is incentive laden, obviously, but like the fact that the base contracts for Jameis Winston and Cam Newton is lower than that of 33-year-old journeyman Chad Henne is appalling.
No, that's definitely something I wanted to touch on before we moved on from this topic. Like, it just boggles my mind that these guys are getting paid such ridiculously low amounts. Again, relatively. Even then, like, you have a MVP who was, I think, number 2 in the NFL top 100 at one point. Maybe not. It may be, if not number 1. And you're giving him a deal that would max out at $7.5 million if he met all the incentives, which we know in the NFL, like, never happens. So it's disgusting. And I think Richard Sherman really said it best when he said it's disgusting. Like, this is disrespectful. I don't know what's going around the league. It kind of, again, shows the biases people have, and it's sad. And if I was the GM of a team and I had the opportunity to negotiate and sign them for $1 million, I would, right? And that, I wouldn't say it's a GM's fault, but just like the league's fault that there's no interest for them. It just, again, boggles my mind. I think when I heard we could have had Jameis Winston for $1 million, I was like wondering why the Bucks didn't just re-sign him, because the teammates liked him. He's willing to learn, clearly, by signing to the Saints and taking $1 million. But if I remember correctly, you said he would have only done that for the Saints.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I don't think he would have done it for the Bucks. It's not like, I don't think, let's say the Cleveland Browns could have gotten Cam Newton for $1 million either.
Yeah,
I think
true.
Cam Newton mostly went there due to the pedigree, and because he gets to play with Bill Belichick and see how, a winning culture is, like you were saying earlier. I mean, the thing is, I think that adds to the fact that to the reason why they signed such cheap contracts is because they were probably looking for much larger contracts and they just couldn't get them. So might as well sign for, a small contract and learn versus a medium contract and sit on the bench to do nothing. I suppose that might be the thinking. I mean, with Jameis, that's definitely the thinking. You have to think that he had some deal for like 10 mil somewhere, right? As maybe the backup to the Titans. They need a backup. But he took that 1 mil deal with the Saints because you'd learn a lot more on the Saints. Because Drew Brees will always impart information if you are ready to ask him questions. And the same with Sean Payton. Obviously, he has to impart information. You're going to be his quarterback. And so, I think Jameis's deal was great for him so that he can learn and then go into his prime as, hopefully a great... I think he's already a great quarterback, but one who cuts down on his turnovers. That then he'll probably be an MVP, honestly. I hope he comes back to the Bucks. I hope once maybe next year after Jameis's 1 year deal, he could come back and be the backup to Brady for a season and then take over the reins once again and take him to the promised land. That'd be kind of cool. Cam, while I don't know, I don't completely agree with you in that it's a terrible situation. It's not the greatest. It's not a good fit. It's not, like you said, they don't have really a history of these dual threat quarterbacks. So we'll see how they can build him. But it does make sense that he's going to this championship organization to see if he can, I don't know, maybe you can get some of that completion percentage that Brady had, something to fix some of his shortcomings. And also, it's tough to call him shortcomings. He's been injured throughout his entire career because he had to carry the Panthers on his back. Let's not forget, these Panthers teams have not been good. Christian McCaffrey, they were not premier NFL offenses.
I would say they weren't premier, but they definitely weren't terrible either. I would say they're middle of the pack. Jonathan Stewart was a good running back. They had some decent weapons. And yeah, Greg Olsen has been there for a while. So yeah, I would agree that they weren't premier, but they also weren't bottom rung, in my opinion.
And that's the same with the Patriots.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see where that gets them. Right. So I will say, though, that there's a bunch of Patriots players that do, this is building off your point, that there's a bunch of Patriots players who start off on the Patriots, then go to other organizations and get paid big money. A couple go to Tennessee. I know one of their tackles went to New York. Some of their defensive players go to other places as well. like
A
Malcolm
lot of them went
Jenkins.
to Miami.
Yeah, and so like they get paid a lot of money when they leave because people are looking for that, Patriots magic in those players. So maybe it results in a big payday for Cam because there's an impression about him afterwards that he knows what a winning culture is like, and he could probably bring that over through his leadership.
I hope
And
so, but the problem is that there's a quarterback glut. You know what I mean? And
yes,
next year that's going to be exacerbated even more when Trevor Lawrence and those come into the league where you never know, man. Like,
and this was the second point I was gonna make that yeah, the signing is low. At the same time, if you look around the league, a lot of teams have like a starter or someone in the works that they're planning on building around, right? So one of the quarterback situations, which is kind of unclear, is in San Diego, but they just drafted a guy. I forget his name, Justin Herbert, and he was taken pretty early in the draft. So that's definitely their guy for the future. If you look at the ones that come to the top of my head right now are probably Jacksonville with Gardner Minshew, who I guess they'll build around. I don't know. That would be
I
one
think they're
possible
tanking for
destination.
Trevor.
Yeah, they're probably thinking for Trevor. So that's one other possible destination. Miami now has Tua. The Steelers have Ben. It would have been interesting to see Newton under Ben as well. The Browns have Baker. I'm just listing off teams. Lamar already with the Ravens. And then the Bengals got Burrow. So as I'm going down the list of these like teams, I don't really see a good location where he would immediately get a starting position. Whereas on the Patriots, there's definitely a more than likely chance that he can beat out Jared Stidham, the guy, for the starting role. So I think that also probably played a factor in him signing with the Patriots, where he gets a chance to prove himself as a starter versus one having to be signed on and possibly, more probably, being a backup on another team. So I think that probably also played a role in him signing with the Patriots.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's no real other place. Maybe Miami because Tua's not going to start probably for the beginning, but you have Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like you said, Gardner Minshew's the man in Jacksonville for now. We'll see what they do. I feel like if they have a good season, they'll roll with them. If not, then they've always got Trevor. And then I don't know what the Chargers are doing. I think their head coach said that they like the 3 quarterbacks that they have. They might sign Colin Kaepernick. That'd be interesting. Because if I'm being honest with you, I could not name the 3rd quarterback that they have. I know they have
Neither
Tyrod
can I.
Taylor, Justin Herbert. Who was the 3rd that they love so much? I'm not sure.
I'm not
But
sure.
maybe I should just do a little more research. I'm sure they could sign a 3rd quarterback to compete, but obviously, yes, they don't need. They just drafted their quarterback. I thought they were going to tank for Trevor as well because they're not a very good team overall. Because I don't even know if Joey Bosa is going to stay when his contract's done. Maybe he'll try to go to the Niners once his contract is up. Oh my God, can you imagine Nick and Joey Bosa on the same team?
That would be insane. I will say that they do like their money, so I wonder how hard that would be to get both of their contracts fulfilled. The Chargers overall are not a great organization, honestly. Like, they moved from San Diego. It was a pure money move. The owner doesn't seem to be too interested in winning at this point in time. They're playing in a stadium that holds a 50% capacity and they still can't sell out seats. They're just a terrible ownership-wise organization. I do like their
You have
coach.
the greatest offensive quarterback in NFL history on your team, and you traded him away
Yeah,
so
dude.
you can start Philly Riv.
We got a steal. We got a big steal in Phillip Rivers. And I'm half joking. I think he'll be okay.
No, I meant they traded away Drew Brees.
Oh yeah, you back in what 06, I think, or whenever that was.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
If you told me you had Drew Brees and LaDainian Tomlinson on the same team and you didn't want to build around that, I mean, hindsight's 2020. We know what Drew Brees became, but oh my God, that's just a match made in heaven.
Wasn't it that LT who said that he knew Drew Brees was that dude just by looking at him and like the way he carried
Everyone
himself?
should.
Yeah.
Drew Brees is so good.
And so, like, even then, LT knew, but I guess the organization thought it was best to go with Rivers. And again, it's what happens, right? People get excited over that new young guy out of college who's like projected to be the next great quarterback, and if you look down the list of first-time quarterbacks taken, how many of them have really panned out in the long run, right?
And to be fair, they were right about Phillip Rivers. He is a good quarterback.
He's good.
They've just
Yeah.
never had the all-around team to get far in the playoffs at all.
And I think that's also part of the fault of the organization, like you said. Like, there's a reason Eli Manning refused to go there. Like, he knew he did not want to go to San Diego, and that's very rarely happened. I think the only other time that's happened is when John Elway said that he refused to be drafted by the Colts. So, and that worked out for John Elway. And it also worked out for Eli, right? Because Eli ended up with 2 rings in New York. And
Correct.
I feel kind of bad for Joe Burrow because I know he was tempted to he attempted to demand the same thing, but it's kind of hard to do that. So,
He should have, man.
He should have.
The Bengals are similar to the Chargers in that they don't have that winning culture, I don't think.
No, not at all. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah.
Where did Andy Dalton sign again? The Cowboys,
Dude,
right?
I think that was a genius signing. I think that you got amazing value at that position. Again, I would say he's a pretty cheap quarterback. I don't know what his deal was worth. It was either 3 or 10. That's very different amounts, but it was one of those numbers. And I think it's an amazing signing.
I thought he was going to sign with the Patriots. I thought he was the perfect fit. And
Yeah.
I think the reason he didn't sign with the Patriots is the Patriots were considering tanking for Trevor with Jared Stidham. But who knows? Maybe they're going for it with Cam. Maybe they don't think they can win with Cam. Maybe they won't even start Cam. But definitely, Trevor Lawrence is one of those players, like, I'm kind of interested in how he'll do in the NFL. He's one of those, like, touted prospects that's been talked about since his high school days. And, he's like that he's being touted as that generational talent, like an Andrew Luck or a Peyton Manning type. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he does wherever he goes.
I will say that the one time I saw him last year, I was not impressed, albeit it was the championship game, but it was probably one of the only games he's played where the other side has just as much physical talent, and he did not look nearly to be as good as Joe Burrow in that game.
True, but Joe Burrow is that 4-year vet. Everyone, like, I don't know. I mean, it's all the situation, right? And we'll see how he does. I don't know too much of how he'll do in the NFL. I mean, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think the Colts will be vying for that number 1 pick probably with Phillip Rivers at the helm because he sucks.
False.
I mean,
we're making the playoffs.
Historically, has not really had the greatest passer ratings in the NFL.
Remember our $50 bet.
Is Jacoby Brissett still on the Colts?
Yeah, remember he negotiated a deal with them. I think it was 2 or 3 years, so he's still there with them.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's the starter halfway through the season.
Hey man, if we're winning games, I'll be fine with either one. I'm open to all possibilities.
Y'all ain't gonna win no games. Y'all suck.
And what would suck is if we miss the playoffs, because then we didn't make the playoffs and we don't get Trevor Lawrence. That would be like the worst.
Y'all always tank. Right when the next generational quarterback's up there, you're like, oh, Peyton Manning, let's just tank. Oh, Andrew Luck, oh, goodbye, win-loss. Let's start Curtis Painter or whatever his name was.
I think we also had Dan Orlovsky at one point. That guy was amazingly bad. So we'll see.
Wasn't he like a number 1 overall pick too, or something? Not number 1, but he was a first-round pick.
Man, Andrew,
or something.
I'm still sad about Andrew Luck.
No. He's the reason Matt Stafford was the number 1 overall pick.
Oh yeah.
They went
0-16 again. Matt Stafford. This is a little rant, but I feel like he went to an 0-16 team. How good do you think he's gonna make it alone? Like, I feel bad for Stafford. I think he's underrated.
Like some of the number 1 overall picks who are considered busts. I mean, I don't think Matt Stafford is considered a bust. He always puts up numbers, but you gotta think like they're going to the team with the number 1 overall pick. They've got the pick for a reason. They're trash. Like, that's like thinking the Cleveland Cavaliers would be good after their 3 number 1 overall picks, and they weren't good until LeBron James came back. That just wasn't a good team. And, it's historically not been a good team without LeBron James. So it's tough for those number 1 overall picks to do well unless it's going to a team that's just down for a year. like the Colts usually are. Like the Colts usually build good teams. They build good defensive. They build good offenses, and they just need that one quarterback to get them over the hump. And then they're promising. I mean, what, one Super Bowl in the last whatever decades? But I mean, hey, that's better than none, right? Like the Falcons.
I'll take it.
But yeah, I think so. How about we move on to some fantasy football talk? I think there's some interesting sleepers to be had. I haven't looked very much into it. The only one I thought about was the fact that I think Tom Brady might like Dare Ogunbowale.
Wow, that's a very, very, very nuanced. I mean, not nuanced, but niche call out. I like it.
Well, think about it, right? Like James White was universally owned in fantasy football, and a couple of years ago, people didn't really want to draft him because he wasn't really a part of the offense. But whenever he was, he would explode. So I think that that pass catching back for the Bucks, it might be Dare or Dare. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm just gonna say Dare. And I don't know. Maybe one of their other running backs will also be that pass catcher. But they always like if they try to emulate at least what Brady likes, it seems like they've got some good running backs that can rush the ball, head down rusher that can also catch. But if they have a primary pass catching back, like when James White came in, you knew like 90% of the time he was going to catch the ball, right? Or block. And Dare could be that same type of guy, and I think he could explode in that offense with Tom Brady, right? Because you're not going to be putting 8 men in the box against Tom Brady. You've got Mike Evans, and you've got Chris Godwin, you've got Rob Gronkowski, and the other 2 tight ends, Cameron Brate and OJ Howard. How are you going to contain them all? You know what I mean? And they got some decent wide receiver depth as well. And so you got to think that running back position will be vital because they'll have the chance to change the game with one big rush. You know what I mean? And Dare could be the pass catching back for the Bucks that Brady usually has.
And I will say that they're going to give Brady a lot of freedom with what he chooses to do offensively. So if he likes those kind of players, and I think you have a great point in that. So he's a sleeper. I'd definitely give him some value. I wonder where he'll be drafted. Not sure. I'm not sure exactly what the depth chart is looking right like now for the Bucks on the running back side. We've like historically been very weak at running back. So let's see. I think Dare has potential. I will say though that just brought me into the whole. I was going to go on a tangent about kickers and how we really need a good kicker. I think that's a make or break every year for us. Like I know we discussed last year and even the year before that, if we had a decent kicker, chances are we would have had a shot at the playoffs in each of the seasons. So,
right, kickers have been like plus or minus 3 wins for the Bucks every single season. Like,
yeah,
there have been so many games where they had a game-winning kick and they missed it because they'd lost because the kicker missed the kick. And yeah, drafted Roberto Aguayo, worst draft pick for the Bucks for probably their history of draft picks. I mean, maybe Steve Young, they wasted that man. But the fact that, I don't know, I feel like that also negatively impacted Jameis overall because he would have been considered a winner. 3 or 4 wins every single season, lost because of their kicker.
Yeah.
And he would have been like a over 500 quarterback every single season.
Yep.
He probably would, probably have a sizable contract right now, probably from the Bucks because they would have offered it to him 2 years ago and wouldn't even have the Tom Brady offer. So I don't know, things fall into place for whatever reason. But the Bucks depth chart, I know they drafted someone, I forget his name, but they're thinking he's going to be good. Ronald Jones, he looked like he was coming into his own last season. Peyton Barber's gone, right? I think he went to the Panthers or something. And then Dare. I think those are the 3 running backs we've got. I think Rojo will be number 1. Then you got the new talent in number 2, and then Dare's probably number 3 as the pass catching back. And then you've got obviously all the offensive talent that they've got, and a pretty good offensive line. And the key to the Bucks was bringing back the defense, right? Because the defense was actually pretty good. all things considered. Like the fact that they were on the field so much because of Jameis's turnovers probably made them look worse than they were. Not only because they had probably historically worst field position. They had some of the worst time on the field, so they're probably tired the entire game. And so bringing them back and having a quarterback hopefully that won't turn over the ball 55 times in a season will probably help them look even better, because they've got great pass rushers, great D-line. Their secondary is, I think, a little underrated. I think Sean Murphy-Bunting is going to be one of the premier cornerbacks for the Bucs in the future. But other than that, I don't think they have really good secondary in terms of safety and the other cornerback. I think the other cornerback's Carlton Davis, who's okay. And then they've got Matt Gay, who, at kicker, he could be good, right? He's looked decent, but he's just missed some of those easy kicks, like those pooch kicks, some of those PATs, and he's missed game-winning kicks, most importantly, like the one against the Giants, I still remember. And so, you're right, we just need a good kicker, and it'll just bring it all together. And you think about the Tom Brady, like, a lot of the times, he's carried by his kicker. Not carried, but you know what I mean. Like, his kicker brings out the best of the team. And they had, what's his name? He's blanking on me. The Colts kicker.
Adam Vinatieri.
Adam Vinatieri. And then
he's the reason that they won that snow game. Like, without him, they lose.
Yeah, exactly. Tuck Rule also helped Brady.
Oh, definitely.
But, I think the Bucs are looking good this season. Do you have any sleeper picks for fantasy football? Would you pick Rob Gronkowski in fantasy football?
No, I would not. I think Rob Gronkowski is going to get... I'd put him at maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns on the year. He's going to be very much like a gadget guy. Like, you need him in a certain situation, and he'll be there. I don't think he's going to put up monster numbers. Like, he's been out of the league for a year. He's getting up there in age. He's had all these injury problems. I just don't think he has the same body that he did. So I'm kind of bearish on him.
He was a WWE champion. He went to WrestleMania. Can any other NFL current active player say that they went to WrestleMania?
Maybe in the audience, but yeah. No, I mean, I'm just trying to be realistic with Gronk. I will say maybe, I'm drawing a blank. Who's the tight end we just took? Not just took, but a couple of years ago. OJ Howard, there we go. That's the name. I'm just blanking because I hate him because I took him in fantasy and he disappointed me a year ago. I think he'll step up.
Butterfingers for sure.
Yeah, I think hopefully he can start catching the ball and not dropping them. He had so many golden opportunities last year as well. I feel like we did good by drafting the offensive lineman in the draft. On the Bucs, I don't really see any sleeper. I will say that I need to do research before I look at sleepers. The one thing I was happy about last year was my sleeper turned out to be amazing, which was Darren Waller. On the Raiders, the tight end. He just turned out amazing.
Really amazing for me, didn't he?
Yeah. What did I trade you for him again? I forget. I think it was Matt Breida.
Running back. It was Matt Breida.
Who worked out good for a couple of games. And then after that.
Well, he worked out good for the very first game.
Yeah, when I
traded him to you, and he didn't start him. Yep.
Yeah, so we'll see. Again, I haven't really done my research, so I can't really see any sleepers.
Yeah, I haven't done really any research either, so I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Like, let's say you think of the Giants. Do you think Daniel Jones will take the next step, and should you draft Evan Ingram? Should you draft Sterling Shepard? Or should you stay away from them? I don't think he will. I don't think Daniel Jones will take that next step.
I will say he won't, but Evan Ingram scored a decent amount of points last year, so he may be a good option, like at tight end.
My thing is I'd rather have someone who consistently scored 12 points than someone who exploded for 20 and then scored 2 the next.
Yeah. I don't see it. I don't see Daniel Jones taking the step. Honestly, I don't know if he's probably ranked 3rd for me in that division in terms of quarterbacks.
Ranked 3rd. Who's in the... Okay, so you've got Dak Prescott.
Probably Wentz, Dak.
Carson Wentz.
Jones, and...
Oh, yeah. Dwayne Haskins.
And Haskins and him are kind of a toss-up for me. You can't really make a judgment on them yet.
Haskins looked terrible last season,
did.
but I mean his offensive line was not very good. It's tough to blame him for anything that happened there, but like even when he had the open man, he could not throw him open. Like Scary Terry, that man is a good wide receiver.
Yeah.
He excelled, even though they didn't really have much to work with. And so I think another good sleeper, Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson on the Steelers, he looked pretty good, and that was with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, who are not good quarterbacks, man. I need the Buck. I wish the Bucks just could have gotten Jameis Winston as the backup, but I'm just hoping Jameis comes to the Bucks after this one season with the Saints, because I do think this was the best situation for Jameis. And then the only problem is Roethlisberger has 2 years on his contract left, so we'll see. I hope he retires after the season. I'm just saying.
I think that bridge is burned, especially after
Bowl.
the Arians comments, where he just straight up on Front Street said, if we have him, we could definitely find someone who can do the job better, or whatever he said, just so bluntly.
Well, Arians is on the Bucks. I want Jameis to go to Steelers.
Well, okay, no, but I'm just saying I don't think he'll come back to the Bucks. I think that bridge is burned.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It could be a Steve Young situation, like that reminded me of what you said, where
I hope so, and I hope that Steve Young situation happens in Pittsburgh.
It's probably gonna happen in the Saints. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be the most sting, right? Because you're in the same division as the next Steve Young type quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh my land!
That would suck, but we would be right, and we can be happy that we were right.
Oh yeah, I'd 100% I'd buy a Jameis Saints jersey.
Oh,
probably.
definitely.
And I think it's interesting. If the Saints or the Steelers win this season, I'd be happy and see Ben Roethlisberger finish his career with another Super Bowl, or Drew Brees finish his career with another Super Bowl. That'd be interesting to watch, right? And then the next big guy comes up, and I hope that's Jameis for either team. And I think the Steelers need to get rid of their backup quarterbacks. I don't think there's much promise. We've seen enough of Mason Rudolph to know that he's not going to be anything. I don't know about Duck Hodges too much. He was a rookie last season. Undrafted. He had some good spurts, but overall as a quarterback on the Steelers, I don't think he was the greatest. And then I think they have Paxton Lynch, who I'm at this point, why? I'd rather have Josh Rosen. Get Josh Rosen. I think that man still has so much potential.
Is Josh Rosen on a team right now?
He's on the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, okay, I thought he was let go or something. Okay.
Nope, still in the Dolphins. And the thing is, he was cocky, right? And his attitude was a big reason why teams didn't want to draft him. But he did well in college, and he hasn't really been on an NFL team to even remotely bring out any of the best of him. I mean, he's had starting opportunities, but he's been on the Cardinals before Kyler Murray. They had the number 1 overall pick for a reason. And then he's been on the Dolphins, who have been historically terrible. So I don't think he's gotten a fair shake. And you could probably get this first round talent that might be good for absolutely nothing. And I mean, I guess that's the same thing with Paxton Lynch, but I think we've seen that Paxton Lynch is just not good. He lost the quarterback battle in Denver to a 7th round draft pick and an undrafted free agent or something. I don't know. He lost that battle. So, and in the same season he was drafted in. So, I don't know. It's kind of strange to have Paxton Lynch on a team.
Yeah,
but
no.
I think back to my original point, Deontay Johnson. I think that's a good wide receiver sleeper that you could probably get in the later rounds. Same with Dare. I think you can get Dare in the later rounds as well.
Okay, so you talking about the Steelers and sleepers has an interesting question popped into my head. So, will you be drafting Antonio Brown?
Antonio Brown. Yeah.
You think so? What round would you take him in?
That's a tough one. I mean, am I assuming he's not on a team right now?
Yeah, he's not on a team.
When I draft him. Okay. Oh, then I can't go too high. I'd go 9th round max.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like he's kind of a ticking time bomb. Hopefully he's changed, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep my eye on him. I think he's definitely worth the draft pick in later rounds, because those positions you never really end up utilizing anyway. So see how that goes, especially if you're one of the earlier picks. Yeah.
The thing with Antonio Brown is I think he would want to sign with the Ravens to slight the Steelers.
Oh my
And if he
God.
does that, you know he would put up numbers in that offense.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's gonna
So
be huge.
that's the only reason I would draft him in the 9th round, because he could also just go to the Redskins. I think he's been training with Dwayne Haskins too. So it's like you either get him to go to one of the most dynamic offenses in the league in the Ravens, or you have him going to probably one of the worst offenses in the league. I feel so bad for Scary Terry over there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm thinking of other sleepers. So you've got you probably have what's that guy's name? Austin Eckler going in the 1st round this year.
Oh, definitely.
Right. And so I think his handcuff and Justin Jackson might be a pretty good pickup as well, because Justin Jackson's no joke either. I think he averages over 5 yards a carry in his career.
And if
And
you
I think
look at
the only other
Eckler, I think they'd
running back
like to
who's
use
done
him
that-
more as like they're definitely going to keep him involved in the receiving aspect of the game. So there's use for Justin Jackson for sure.
Well, yeah, that, but also at the same time, I thought that last season, and I picked up Justin Jackson off of the waivers, used my high ass waiver on him, and he did not do anything. Like, Austin Eckler became the 3-down back. He rushed, he pass caught, he did everything. And so, I mean, I think Justin Jackson will be a gamble, but you've got to take Austin Eckler off the field every now and then, and you know, you've got to have the handcuffs in the league. And Chargers, they don't have Phillip Rivers anymore either, though, so I don't know how dynamic their offense is going to be. But I think it's a good, like, if you can get Justin Jackson late in the later rounds, might as well, I feel.
Yeah, no, for sure. I will say like the 2 other running back situations I'm interested in are the Rams and the Falcons. I want to see how healthy Todd Gurley is on the Rams, and I haven't done any research, but looking at the backups on the Falcons, there may be some good value there. And same with the Rams. I don't even know what their depth chart looks like at running back, so maybe there's a hidden gem in there.
Darrell Henderson.
Darrell
Henderson.
Okay.
And he was pretty good, I think.
Okay.
People were drafting him last season.
Oh, wow.
But I think Todd Gurley just ended up playing everything.
Okay, so yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I think Darrell Henderson probably a good shout. Let me see. Yeah, Darrell Henderson Jr. is their number 1 running back. Cam Akers, number 2. Malcolm Brown, number 3. Malcolm Brown, I think, got more run than Darrell Henderson did when... I remember this. So Todd Gurley got hurt, and everyone picked up Darrell Henderson, and Malcolm Brown was the one who burst out. But I think that's just, you know, how the game went. I'm trying to think. So I think I'd stay away from most of the 49ers running backs, even though I love Raheem Mostert. They're going to have a healthy Tevin Coleman and a healthy Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah.
Jerick McKinnon, like, the only reason I would stay away from Raheem Mostert is because he'd probably be like a top 4 round pick in a 3-headed behemoth of a backfield, you know? And then I'd consider getting Jerick McKinnon if he goes late.
You know,
that would probably be
that'd
an
be interesting.
one.
I'm also curious of Seattle. I've always stayed away from them when I'm like drafting running backs, but it may be worth it to check out what they're doing there.
Oh, I mean, Chris Carson is the guy, and when he's not the guy, it's Rashard Penny.
Yeah, and I think they were both injured last year, right? Which is crazy.
Yeah, at the end of the season.
So we'll see how that works out.
Oh, I think if you want to like Chris Carson's gonna go early.
You think so?
And you know, he does well yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Last season he was really good until he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the reason a lot of people were in the playoffs, because people tend to stay away from those Seattle running backs, and then, you know, they usually only use one. Like, when there's one person doing well, they stay with that guy, and Chris Carson is the guy over there.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And they're gonna mix in Rashad Penny, but I don't think he's gonna be that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a good late round pick, but
yeah, we'll see.
As a handcuff,
running backs are always kind of hard to pick sleepers for me. I feel like they're more hit or miss for me. I had some decent luck with wide receivers going later in the rounds. I think that's one of the strategies I'm definitely going to do this year, where I'm going to focus more on running backs early, because you can get some serviceable wide receivers in like rounds 4 through 6.
Definitely. I think that, like, it seems like the fantasy football world kind of goes through an evolution as well, where, you know, back in when we started, you had to draft a running back first.
Yeah.
Regardless of PPR, standard, you got to get a running back, right? Then it kind of changed, and like maybe because there was no like premier running back, but people started drafting wide receivers very high. Like you got your Antonio Browns, Julio Jones, this, that, and the other. But if you can, like you said, you can find serviceable wide receivers not only at the end of the draft, but during the season, because someone just breaks out. Like if you got Devontae Parker last season, the one season I didn't draft him in fantasy because he was my sleeper. Every single see, okay, my thing is whenever I have a sleeper, you know this, they don't do well the season I think they're going to do well. They do well the season after once they disappoint me because I drafted them as a sleeper.
So you're basically telling me to draft Dare next year.
Yep, Dare next year. Justin Jackson next year. Matt Breida might be a good one too.
A good value pick.
Because he is right on the Dolphins, you know. I think they have Jordan Howard too. Yeah. But we know who's the better of the two.
Yeah. I think Jordan Howard, I think he was so good like 2 years ago. And that's the thing about running backs, right? It's so fickle. Like he was the premier guy. He was regarded as going really early in the draft. And then now he's like not, is he even the starter in Miami? Who knows? It's kind of crazy how running backs just, the turnover is insane.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Howard, you know, he kind of got all the rush in
Chicago,
and they were a decent offense, right? Before they had Allen Robinson and everything. And, you know, he did well, and then I think they just became a trash team with Mitch Trubisky, and then they're like, all right, yeah, all we have to do is defend the run, and they won't win the game. Good strategy. So then you bottle up Jordan Howard so he looks worse, and then he went to the Eagles, where he did well, I think. I mean, he wasn't the number one guy, and then you have Miles Sanders, who's just like probably the next 3-down back, running back that probably should go in the first round in NFL fantasy. So you've got Jordan. He just hasn't been in the greatest situations. I think he only had one season in Philadelphia, and so he hasn't really gotten the opportunity to really do much. Like his first 2 seasons were phenomenal, I'm pretty sure, and then the next season he was trash, and then I think he got traded, and so then he signed with Miami now, and maybe he has the chance. You never know. I think you don't know who Jordan Howard will be yet.
I will say that the one thing that's lost in all this in Chicago is Allen Robinson. I had him last year, and dude, that man was consistently putting up numbers and with Mitch Trubisky. So he may not be like top tier, but if you have a chance to get him in the 3rd round, I think even then he's a steal. Like he's so good. I feel sad for him being there, but like even despite Mitch Trubisky, man got catches, he got touchdowns, he was making incredible catches. You should definitely go and watch some of his highlights from last year. It's insane. So I think
it's kind of a similar situation to when Teddy Bridgewater was the starter in New Orleans.
Yeah.
He would just feed Michael Thomas. And so Mitch Trubisky, as bad as he is, he knows he just has to throw it to the best guy available.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, Allen Robinson, you can't go wrong with him.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely worth the pick.
A healthy Matt Stafford means the Lions' offense is very viable for NFL fantasy. I think almost any, if you can get their running back, if you can get either of their good wide receivers, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, and then the other big question is the running back situation in Philly. I'm not sure who's going to be the number one.
That's not a question at all.
Who do you think it is?
It's Miles Sanders, far and away.
You think so?
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
Is he going to be like, okay. I need to research it again. I'm not sure. And then I don't know who they have on
Miles
receivers.
Sanders was
receivers
a
on
phenom
deck
last season.
So we'll see that as well. But Carson Wentz may also be a good quarterback pick late in the round.
I don't think there's any like confusion with the Eagles actually, because you got Carson Wentz quarterback, Miles Sanders far and away the best running back on the roster. He's really good, dude. He's like a 3-down back. He can run and pass catch, and he's very shifty. Right? He's kind of a LaShawn McCoy-esque, but not really to that extent. You got Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson,
who are hopefully
so if they're healthy, they're going to be starting.
Yeah.
And they drafted Jalen Reagor, I believe.
Yeah, which again I think people were confused why they took him when they had other options that people were more hyped on. But we'll see how they do.
And I think they really like JJ Arcegui-Whiteside. I don't know how to say his name.
He was good.
I've like read his name before, but I don't know how to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they signed Marquise Goodwin. That's all. That's like their entire depth chart that I know. And I know they had some like good ones that popped up last season when their entire depth chart was injured. And then Zach Ertz is the guy at tight end.
I don't know about
and
that,
Dallas
dude.
Goedert
I drafted
is
him
pretty
last
good
year,
too.
Zach Ertz, and he was a disappointment.
He was a top 5 tight end last season.
He was still a disappointment.
I mean, I guess then you'll be disappointed with almost any tight end that's not the top 4.
I feel like there's such a big drop off between 1, 2, and then 3. It's like insane.
Yeah, I mean, tight ends are hit or miss, man. It's tough in the tight end world in fantasy because they've got multiple. They're not. Their job is to catch and block.
Yep.
And if you can't block, you're not on the field all the time
Yep.
to catch passes. And so that's why tight ends like George Kittle or Travis Kelce, who can do it all, that's why they're the premier tight ends. Back when Rob Gronkowski was in his prime, which he's only 31 years old. He's not like too far out. The reason he was so good is because he never came off the field because he could pass catch and he could block. So, like, I think the key to these tight end situations is to find ones that are good at blocking as well. Like a Delaney Walker in his prime was pretty good. Tony Gonzalez. These do-it-all tight ends are the ones that you should be drafting early. And then if you had to fill it in, you got to find one that's, I don't know, I guess later rounds you got to go for the offensive ones. Like, I'm drawing a blank. Like Mike Gesicki on the Dolphins.
I think Will
like,
Dissly would be a good pickup too. I know he tore his Achilles, but we'll see how well he recovered from that in Seattle.
Oh, Will Dissly was so good before his injury.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Jeez.
I think that's another one to look out for.
He was looking great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully he recovers and gets to play. I know Greg Olson's on that team too, so
yeah,
we'll see that competition. It's going to be an interesting season. I'm drawing a blank on the rest of any like sleepers. Ben Roethlisberger, you could probably pick him up late, and I think he'll do fine this season.
Hopefully, we'll see. He's getting up there in age.
Pick him up as QB2 though.
Don't want to
not
start
your QB1, but yeah, I think he could do well this season. I'm trying to think any good situations that like there's so much opportunity because every single like the reason Cam Newton and Jameis Winston had so much trouble finding a team is because there's a quarterback glut, which also means that there's an offensive glut. There's too many offensive stars in the league right now. So there's so much potential for fantasy as well. So it's like there has to be more like amazing sleepers out there.
And I think we should do a podcast on that, like do some research, try to figure out.
Yeah, we could do a fantasy football podcast.
I have drawing blanks because I really haven't looked at the depth charts at all.
Okay, here's one for you. So, Eric Ebron's gone from the Colts.
Yep.
Jack Doyle, question mark?
He's good. He's been consistent. I like him.
And without Eric Ebron to compete with, he is the guy. He's the go-to guy. And Phillip Rivers loves his tight ends.
So, I think it'll work out. Jack Doyle is on my list. Just, I don't know. My strategy this year, which is getting into just fantasy football even more, is I'm probably going to go for one of those top 2 tight ends. Specifically Travis Kelce. We'll see if I can get him in the second round. I'm not sure. So
nope.
Definitely
not.
Fingers
Unless
crossed.
you're playing in like a 4-team league. You're not getting him in the second round.
True. But yeah, no, I think that's all on my end.
I'm trying to think. Hayden Hurst, I think that'll be a good sleeper tight end for the Falcons. Because they got rid of Austin Hooper, and Austin Hooper was a top 5 tight end last season in fantasy.
And now he's on the Browns.
Yo, who I would not draft. I wouldn't draft him.
No, neither would
I don't like Baker Mayfield.
They have too many players there that the ball could go to. And you learned your lesson the hard way last year with Odell.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Odell's fault that Baker's trash.
I think we disagree on that. I'm optimistic. I will acknowledge he was not good last year.
Baker was a one-read quarterback, and he had Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. with not only Nick Chubb, but Kareem Hunt at running back for half the season. He had really good tight ends. He had really good receivers. He had really good running back, and his defense was really good.
Yeah,
I see one issue.
Him winning a decent amount this year. We'll see how that goes.
He was trash last season. I hope he's
trash. He may be worth a late round quarterback pickup. Who knows?
I'm not touching it. I'm not touching him. He sucks. He's trash.
Mm.
Why would I draft him when Nick Chubb's probably going to take all the red zone touchdowns?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
He's not good. I know Freddie Kitchens was trash too, but he's not good. Who's the head coach now for the Browns?
He's someone who came over from the Vikings. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Oh, the guy he has like a goatee all the time or something.
Think so. Not sure.
Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, him.
Who cares about the Vikings? The Vikings.
They have
are
a shot.
lackluster.
I think you're just salty that they beat the Saints in the playoffs last year.
The Saints always get a missed call on them at the end of the game.
So yeah, and I think the Vikings will take a step back. Packers year to shine in that division. But yeah,
No, they just drafted Jordan Love, dude.
sure.
What do you think? I think it's the Lions' turn.
No, it's gonna be the Packers.
I think the Lions are gonna do well.
It's gonna be the Packers.
Obviously the Packers are gonna do well, but because they have Aaron Rodgers. But I think the Lions have a chance this season
I don't know
because they have a healthy Matt Stafford. They've got
I
a
don't
great
believe in
offense,
Matt
and then they've got
Patricia.
a defensive-minded head coach.
And their defense was their defense good last year? I don't even remember. I don't think so.
I don't know, dude. Nobody pays attention to the Lions.
Yeah, they're
They
kind
suck.
of irrelevant.
But they had nobody at quarterback.
Mhm. So
They did. Who did they beat someone at the end of the season? I think it was the Packers, or they almost beat someone at the end of the season. It was the Packers, but yeah, we'll see. I think the Lions could do decent. Vikings are probably going to be decent. Obviously, the Packers are going to run away with the division. I just want to see I want to see Matt Stafford have a little bit of success. You know, he kind of deserves it.
I mean, he's coming off a back injury. We'll see how good he is if he's 100%.
Yeah, carrying the team really does
Yeah.
put a strain on your
And
back.
apparently, it was a pretty serious injury. I had to sit out the whole season after he got hurt. So
Mhm.
we'll see. I think Packers won, Vikings too. Bears are going nowhere with Trubisky. Maybe the Lions will get better. Who knows?
I'm going to just say, Colts suck. All right, thank you for listening to the What and Deep podcast. Check out our store, karmastyles.com. It's in the development stages, but nobody really listens to the podcast right now, so not many people will really see it anyway.
If you do see it, please, we appreciate your support. Check it out. Give us any feedback you may have. Vicasa's been slaving away at that website, so it's definitely a big project on his end. I'll end with saying that the Colts will make the playoffs, and I will be $50 richer whenever the playoffs start.
Keep in mind, Sagar is delusional, number one. But number two, the website is in the development stages, so keep that in mind when surfing through. It's obviously not ready for the public. We're not advertising it yet. We just want some constructive criticism is all.
Yep.
And with that said, thank you for listening to One ND Podcast. Colts suck, and we're out of here.
The Colts are going to make the playoffs, and 1ND out.